Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here not to learn how to escape life, nor to master it like a tool, but to approach it as something sacred, a mystery to be lived, not solved. Life is not a straight line, nor a formula, nor a task to be completed. It is a journey into the unknown landscape of the soul. And so, if we ask how to live, we are not seeking answers, we are invoking a transformation. To live is to listen deeply to the quiet voices within us. These voices are often hidden beneath the noise of the world, the voice of the child we once were, the wounded shadow we try to forget, the dreamer who still dares to hope. They dwell in what we call the unconscious, not because they are absent, but because we have not dared to face them. Living fully means turning toward that inner darkness, not to be consumed by it, but to understand it. For what we do not face within, we will project outward onto lovers, enemies, even fate itself. So I say this, do not seek the light by avoiding the dark. The one who truly lives does not chase happiness like a prize. They make peace with sorrow. They do not become good by ignoring their flaws. They become whole by embracing them. For there is no growth without tension, no birth without pain, and no awakening without the courage to confront one's own inner chaos. To live life well is to take responsibility for your own myth, the unique and symbolic story you are here to embody. That story is not written by your parents, your culture, or your fears. It waits in the deep in your dreams, your longings, your contradictions, and so you must descend into memory, into shadow, into the heart of your own being. There you will meet not only pain but power, not only doubt but wisdom, and not only fear but the sacred. Live then, not as a copy of what is expected, but as the original you were meant to be. Make mistakes that are truly your own, love with sincerity, suffer with dignity, create something only you can bring into the world, and above all, do not sleep through your own becoming. Because the question is not only how to live, the question is, will you have the courage to truly meet yourself before you die? Thank you. Would you like this adapted for a particular audience, students, general public, spiritual setting, etc.? Ask ChatGPT, you said, give me best 2 keynotes, don't expand them. ChatGPT said, embrace your inner shadow to become whole. Live your own myth, not someone else's script. You said, keynote no. 1 expanded into 700 best words. Don't add ending sentences. Don't add any headings, ChatGPT said. To embrace your inner shadow is to take the first courageous step toward becoming whole. The shadow is not evil in itself. It is simply the part of you that you have refused to acknowledge. It is the sum of all those thoughts, emotions, impulses, and desires that were once deemed unacceptable by your family, society, or even by your own conscious self. These parts did not vanish. They simply went underground into the unconscious, where they continued to live, shape, and direct your behavior from behind the scenes. What you repress, you do not destroy. What you ignore becomes stronger, not weaker. When the shadow is not integrated, it emerges through projection. You begin to see in others the very traits you deny in yourself. The anger you suppress shows up in your contempt for the rage of others. The vulnerability you hide reappears as your irritation with weakness in friends or strangers. The jealousy you refuse to confront expresses itself in your mistrust of those closest to you. In this way, the disowned self becomes a tyrant, not because it is bad, but because it has been banished. The longer it remains in exile, the more it distorts your life. Facing your shadow is not a moral project. It is not about becoming good. It is about becoming real. The person who denies their shadow may appear virtuous, even noble, but underneath they are divided. This internal division eventually breeds anxiety, resentment, emptiness, and projection. Wholeness, by contrast, requires contradiction. A human being is not a pure being, but a total being, full of paradox, instinct, conflict, desire, and aspiration. When you embrace the shadow, you recover lost vitality. You reclaim energy that was previously spent on suppression, denial, and performance. You stop policing your emotions and begin to understand them. This work cannot be done intellectually alone. The shadow is not simply a concept. It is an experience. It will emerge in your dreams as a stranger, an adversary, or a dark figure. It will appear in your life as repeated patterns, irrational fears, or sudden outbursts. To face the shadow is to sit with discomfort, to allow guilt and shame to surface, and to listen. Not justify, not rationalize, but listen. Why did that part of you form? What was it protecting? What pain did it carry? When you inquire without judgment, the shadow becomes a teacher rather than a threat. Often, the traits buried in the shadow are not only dark, but also powerful. Assertiveness, sensuality, ambition, creativity. Many of these qualities were pushed into the shadow because they were too much for the environment you grew up in. Perhaps your family prized obedience over expression. Perhaps your community demanded conformity over passion. So you hid these traits, but they never died. They became distorted. The unexpressed artist becomes the chronic critic. The denied leader becomes the manipulator. The silenced lover becomes the saboteur. Integration means to bring these energies back into the light, not in their distorted form, but in their essence. This is not a regression, it is a resurrection. You do not become childish. You reclaim the child's spontaneity. You do not become reckless. You rediscover courage. You do not become immoral. You recover moral honesty, and with that, a deeper sense of authority arises. Not the authority given by society, but the authority of someone who knows themselves. This process cannot be rushed, nor can it be forced. The shadow reveals itself only when you are ready to see it. It is an initiation. You must walk into yourself without knowing what you will find. You must allow the pain of recognition. You must resist the temptation to fix or control. Instead, you bear witness. You allow space. You suffer truth. What you discover in time is that your greatest strength lies not in your perfection, but in your complexity. The person who embraces their shadow does not become chaotic. They become stable. They are no longer at war within themselves. They do not need to pretend because they have nothing left to hide. They carry their past, their wounds, and their contradictions with dignity, not shame. They are not saints, but they are sovereign. You said, keynote no. To expand it into 700 best words, don't add ending sentences, don't add any headings, ChatGPT said. To live your own myth is to step away from the pre-written scripts handed down by others. Scripts shaped by culture, family expectations, social norms, and the collective pressures of conformity. These scripts may offer comfort and certainty, but they rarely offer truth. They are maps made for someone else's journey. To follow them without question is to abandon your own soul's path, to silence the voice that calls you inward, and to trade authenticity for approval. Every individual carries within them a unique myth, a symbolic pattern, a personal calling, an inner blueprint that whispers through dreams, longings, fascinations, and even suffering. It is not something imposed from the outside. It arises organically from within. But to hear that myth, one must be willing to listen in silence. In a world that values noise, speed, and productivity, this act of listening is radical. The myth does not shout. It murmurs beneath the surface of daily life. And the restlessness you feel when you are not being true to yourself, in the unease that accompanies choices made for appearances, and in the quiet pull towards something you cannot name but deeply sense. Living your myth means taking the risk to ask, what do I truly want? Not what do I want to want, not what should I want, but what moves me without reason, what draws me in without reward, what calls to me even when I try to dismiss it as impractical or strange. These are not idle questions. They are invitations to return to the essence of who you are beneath the roles you perform. Society teaches us to pursue identity like a possession, to construct a self out of achievements, affiliations, and appearances. But myth is not about identity, it is about destiny. Identity says, this is who I am. Myth says, this is who I must become. It is not static. It evolves as you do. It is not chosen at random. It is revealed through the path you walk with awareness. Living your myth does not guarantee comfort or applause. In fact, it may lead you into isolation, confusion, or confrontation, but it will never be empty, because meaning is not something you find at the end of the road. It is something you generate through the way you walk it. To live your myth is not the same as chasing your ego's fantasies. It requires humility. It demands the willingness to be shaped by the journey, to be broken open by failure, to shed masks that once served you but no longer fit. It is a process of inner alchemy where suffering is not wasted but transformed. The difficulties you face are not merely obstacles. They are initiations. Each challenge is a symbolic trial that strips away illusion and brings you closer to your essential self. You will know you are on your mythic path not because it is easy, but because it feels undeniably real. There is an inner resonance, a sense that your life is aligned with something greater than convenience. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in quiet decisions. The choice to speak your truth rather than stay silent. The courage to say no when yes would keep the peace. The commitment to create even when no one is watching. This path is not linear. It is a spiral winding inward as much as it moves forward. At times you may feel lost, but even disorientation is part of the journey. Being lost is often a sign that the old maps no longer serve you. Do not panic. The myth speaks in symbols, not directions. Dreams, intuition, synchronicities. These are its language. To live mythically is to read your life like a sacred text, to see events not as random but as meaningful, to trust that your soul is guiding you even when your mind cannot yet understand the why. There is no external authority who can confirm your myth for you. Only you can recognize its signs. The work is inward. The answers emerge not from asking what is expected, but from risking what is true. Living your own myth means choosing depth over safety, authenticity over acceptance, and transformation over stagnation. It means giving yourself fully to what is uniquely yours to embody, to express, to create, and to suffer for. You are not here to live someone else's life or fulfill someone else's story. You are here to unfold what only you can unfold.